to introduce the perfect accounting system for hotels. My name is Tuba Akin, and I've got my colleague Matt here with me today, who will be doing a short demo after the presentation. And before we begin, I kindly ask everyone to keep your microphone on mute, please. I will be taking questions at the end, and if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. Multi-currency reporting and integration Sun with your hotel system. My colleague Matt will do the demo on easy integration with third-party apps, real-time reporting, multiple analysis options, budget versions and entities, user-friendly and customizable interface, the ability to post memory records, and multi-currency reporting. We will also do a Q&A session after the demo. Okay, a little bit about us. We are a gold reseller of SunSystems, gold being the highest accreditation with info and is based on our sales and customer retention. We have 20 plus years of experience in this field and we've got over 200 customers globally with our customer first approach to our relationship. It's nice to be able to say that we are still working with some of our first finances customers. We also offer cloud hosting should this be your interest, which will take the hassle of looking after your own servers and equipment. We are very proactive in helping customers get the most out of SunSystems, as we provide regular online training courses and free monthly webinars. We offer telephone support from Monday to Friday, so if you have any issues, just dial our support desk and they will be ready to help you. And finally, we've got a lot of useful content for you that we put on our blog in Finance's website. Here are some of the hotels we work with. All of these hotels use the same accounting system as we do, and we continue to work with them to ensure they are on the latest version of the software and utilizing new features to achieve greater benefit. Here you can see some of our office locations. We offer support from these locations. UK support is based on UK hours. We then hand over to California in the evening, Indonesia overnight, and back to the UK in the morning. This means we are offering 24 hours support from Monday to Friday. SunSystems comes with a powerful reporting tool. The tool allows you to view data in real time in Excel without having to manually manipulate your data. So potentially saving your hours if you are currently doing this manually. Q&A is designed to be an end-user tool, so you don't have to get your technical team involved. Once you have had the training, your team will be able to write reports for themselves. Q&A also provides powerful drill-down capabilities, allowing you to quickly view the underlying data. About transaction analysis, one of the first things to mention is SunSystems is very strong in capturing analysis in detail against transactions. You can analyze what is relevant to you, for example, like departments, location, room type, restaurants, and any other user-defined dimension. Sun can hold more than 200 pieces of information against every transaction for reporting. And if there are links or rules between the fields, we can build it into the system. Against each nominal account, we have the concept of account mappings. This enables you to create parallel charting accounts for alternative reporting. This saves a lot of time manual grouping things in Excel. Provide your reports are configured with the correct start and end range. New account can also automatically be included. You can have up to 10 different budget and forecast ledgers in Sun, and the amount of details you can hold for your budget and forecast can be the same level as on transactions. Budgets can be uploaded by Excel. SunSystems supports unlimited legal entities with instant consolidation and no impact on license costs. Also, the flexibility to add new entities when opening new hotels. About multi-currency, SunSystems is particularly strong on currencies. It supports unlimited currencies and unlimited rates against every transaction. You can hold 5 currency values, which allows you to instantly consolidate across your group. To give you an example of how we would use 2 currencies on a transaction, if you are a European hotel chain and you are purchasing something from the US in USD, you would enter USD as the transaction currency. This can automatically convert to the local currency of euros for local reporting. And about integration, in our hospitality sector, we would integrate some of the solutions to SunSystems. As you can see here are some examples of systems that integrate with Sun. SunSystems offers three levels of integration. The first and most basic level of integration would be via reporting tool. Essentially, if you can get the data into Excel, you can quickly upload it into Sun. This is great for one-off journals or basic payroll file uploads. The second level of integration would be via the core module in Sun, called Transfer Desk. If your other system can output a file, Transfer Desk can pull that file from within a folder, carry out any lookups, validate it, and then post it into Sun with potentially no user input. This can also be scheduled to happen every 2 minutes, once a day, once a week, or once a month. Depends to your liking. The third and final option would be the API for Sun, which allows real-time transfer of data. We tend to find, however, that most clients find the first 2 options sufficient for their processes, as APIs tend to be more expensive and require a development team. That's an overview of our agenda today, and I'm going to hand you over to Matt to do the demo.
Thank you, Tugba.
Thank you very much for your time.
Just transition over onto my screen. Could you just confirm, Tugba, my screen's on screen now?
I'm just gonna see just a second. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to start off with the reporting elements because we know how important that is to our existing clients. We're going to talk about how we can get transactions into Sun in various methods, but then if we can't report out again in a user-friendly and timely manner, it kind of defeats the object. So for that, we've got a great dedicated tool, which is provided by the authors of SunSystems, which is called Info Q&A, and that exists as an add-in just within standard Microsoft Excel. So here we are within Excel, and we can see within the Excel menu at the top, just neatly folded in, is Info Q&A. That gives me access to all the tools that I need to create and maintain my own reports once I'm logged in. You can see I'm logged in already. That's really important, of course, because that's giving me access to the financial data, and we can limit what users can see and do within the reporting tool. So if you've got any issues around data visibility and control of your users and their roles, that's no problem. So to demonstrate this, I've got a very standard report, a profit and loss account, which is obviously a report that most organizations need in one form or another. We're going to look at more specific hotel type reporting in a moment. Within this report, I've got my revenue, I've got my direct costs, and I've got my indirects. It's also split into 2 sections. I've got current period and I've got year to date. And both of those sections have actual and budget figures, which are being pulled directly from SunSystems. So even though the spreadsheet presents a value, so if I look at my rooms revenue for the current period, it is a value, but behind the value is a formula, and it's that formula that pulls the data from Sun in real time. So it's going directly into the tables and pulling that value out. It's not going to a data cube or a warehouse that needs to be refreshed. It's truly real-time information. So as soon as I post transactions into Sun, I can see them reflected in the report. This report's being driven by parameters over here on the left. So I've got cells which are driving things like my company code, the period, the currency, and the various analysis that I use. So I've got things like my service code. So I'm analyzing there by revenue type, the cost center. If I'm applying any events within my hotel, I can report at the event level, by employee and by hotel. But these are just examples of analysis that you can use. You can have up to 10 validated analysis types and apply them across your entire revenue, P&L and balance sheet. So all I need to do to update the report on a monthly basis, for example, is if I want to run this for my next period, period 9, just change that parameter and then hit recalculate. And in just a second, you'll see those values change. Now that was pretty fast. So I'm going to rechange that to period 10 now and recalc. And that changes the report. So once the report is built, I can just change the parameter and refresh and get new updated information. I don't have to recreate the report every single time. But then if I wanted to analyze my report, so you can see at the moment I'm running it for all hotels, they're all grouped together. If I wanted to run it for just one hotel, I can open up my list. That's going to present me with a list of all of my hotels. So let's run it for this one. And then when I recalculate, the report's going to change quite radically because I'm only running it now for that one hotel. I'm just going to flip that back into all. And get my entire consolidated total hotels view. Now, obviously, this is very high level information. Of course, I'm going to want to get behind the numbers and investigate them. So let's say, for argument's sake, I wanted to have a look at my rooms revenue year to date and maybe see that split down just by period. I can go to a summary drill down. That's going to give me a list of things that I can analyze by all the fields on the transaction, and I can use just single field or combinations. I'll just keep it simple. I just want to drill down to the accounting period level. When I OK that, it has a little calculation and then opens up a brand new sheet, which is now showing me that 7908267 is now split by period. So with just a couple of clicks, I've gone straight down and analyzed that. Now, of course, if something in there looks a little odd, so for example, period 10, very, very low, I want to investigate that number, maybe see all the transactions that make that up. Just one right click, I can go to a transactional drill. I can create a brand new drill, or I can use a pre-saved drill. These are just combinations of transactional fields. So just one click, and now I've got that 7816 now split into the transactional detail. So I can see that these are actually some sales invoices. So just to sort of reiterate that, I go from a very high level down to a more analyzed level, and then even further right down to the transactional. So I've not actually had to go anywhere near, I've not had to log into the accounting system. I've done all that reporting and analysis work purely within the tool, the reporting tool itself. Now, to take that a little further, I have got an example of a hotel related report. So this was actually provided by and written for one of our customers, and they allow us to use it in demonstrations. So very similar layout. I've got my revenue section. then some costs relating to that. So it is a kind of quite a detailed P&L. And then across the top, I'm showing current period actual versus budget, some calculations to show the variances, some comparisons to last year and variances against last year, and then year to date against budget, and so on. So a similar-ish report, but it's more aligned. But the important thing here is my top section, I've actually got some statistics about my rooms and occupancy. SunSystems has the facility to hold non-balance sheets, non-trial balance information. So if I want to hold numbers that don't form part of my financials, I can hold those in special areas called memo accounts. So if I can bring in that rooms information from my front of house system, I can then report it out. So I can see total rooms available, how many rooms were available in the period, how many occupied, occupancy percentage, average rate, number of guests, and so forth. So these stats are all held within Sun. They've been brought in from another system, obviously, via integration, which we're going to look at next. But it means that I can report those values out alongside my financial numbers. And again, with this report, if I want to run it for the next month, it's just a case of changing the parameter and then recalculating. It's got a few more cells to recalculate in this one, so it takes a couple of seconds. But now I've got my period 10 figures displayed in the report. And again, this report is completely drillable. So any value that has a formula behind it, I can drill down on it and get to the underlying data. So any report you need can be built within Excel. Obvious things like my P&L, I've got balance sheet, I've got cash flow, I've got information about my bank reconciliation for example, and details about my assets. I'm using the Sun fixed asset register, which means I can hold all that information about individual assets and report it out again from Sun itself or using Q&A. We can also use Q&A reporting to send data into SunSystems. So if you can get your transactions into an Excel spreadsheet, then we can use the reporting tool to upload those. It could just be a simple 2-line journal, which is what I've got on screen, or it could run into hundreds or even thousands of lines of data. I've done speed tests on journals. The last one I did was 6,000 lines of data, so transactional data in a journal, and I was able to upload that in less than 3 minutes. It's fully validated. It won't allow you to upload incomplete data or transactions that don't meet the mandatory requirements, but it's a very quick and efficient way of getting that into Sun. And also, you could also see it as a first level of integration. You might have an external system that outputs a file. If you can get that file into Excel, then you can map it and send it into Sun as a journal. So for this one, you can see here, I've got the standard journal type information, date, period, account code, of course, description. I've got my base amount, the currency code, really important that we can identify the currency that we're transacting in. And remember, in Sun, you can transact in any currency, and that will automatically translate into your base currencies. In my world, I report in both GBP and US dollar, but I can transact in any currency. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. I'm also tagging my transactions with the appropriate analysis codes. So where you need to analyze by revenue type, by cost center, by event, by hotel, we just tag the transactions with the relevant analysis code as part of the journal entry. That's all mapped in. So when I want to post this, I just hit the button to post a journal. It does 2 levels of validation. It first validates it within Excel itself. And once it passes that level of validation, it then passes it through to Sun. It's integrating via an API. So that data set has now been submitted to Sun. It does a second level of validation, which is much more detailed. And if it passes all of that, you can see I've now got my little message popped up to say that 2 records have been imported. And that's created that unique journal number 2547. So if I take a look at my quick report here. I can actually report that journal out. So that 2-line journal gave me the unique identifying number for that journal, and I can immediately report it. So as soon as it's in Sun, it's available for reporting. So that journal upload from Excel, that's our kind of first level of integration. The second level is using a tool within SunSystems called Transfer Desk. Now, what Transfer Desk can do is take a file that's been produced from another system. So that could be Opera, for example, or Materials Control, and turn that into an uploadable, postable journal. Out of the box, Sun has integration profiles for Opera, Materials Control, and other front of house systems used within hospitality. So we already have the tools available without having to reconfigure Sun to import those. So the example that I've got to show you is an example of a Materials Control file, where this is the file that has been produced by the Materials Control system. It's an NDF file, so it's a simple text file, and I can open that with Notepad to take a look at it. So it's just a 2-line journal, or rather it's 2 transactions. I think these are invoices. So just one side of the entry, but what we can do with Transfer Desk is create the other side of that entry to make it a balanceable double entry journal. We write rules around this to turn it, to map the fields, any lookups to translate, the account from the source system into the correct account for SunSystems, and do all of that automatically. So all that happens within Sun itself is it picks up the file, reads it, interprets it, and posts it. So I'm going to show you Sun now. This is SunSystems. We'll spend a little more time navigating and showing some of the features of Sun. But what I want to do is go to Transfer Desk and import that file. So for that, I go to an area called Transfer Profiles. So this is going to show me just all the various different imports and exports I've created in Sun. The one that I want to use is this Materials Control invoice. This is basically just the front end of what we see in Transfer Desk, the sort of user interface. Behind this are all those rules that I talked about. Basically, the profile is saying pick up a file, and I'll just make sure I'm picking up the correct file here. Yep, it's that one. Now, this whole thing we would schedule in the real world. So we just ask and configure the system to say, look in a specific folder. When a file is dropped into there from the other system, and base that on a time basis, like maybe every morning at 1 a.m., that file is going to be produced and dropped into a specific folder. Sun will just poll for that file, pick it up, process it, and post it. So there's no manual intervention at all. Just when you start work in the morning, that file has been processed. You will be notified that the journal has been posted, or if it's failed for some reason, you'll get a notification telling you that it's failed and why. I've not set up that automation. I'm just going to run it manually. But if I hit that to process, I think I can maximize this up a little bit. I'll look a little larger. There we go. So we can see that 2 records have been posted, 2 successful records. It gives me some posting information, and it gives me that all important unique identifying journal number. So that material controls file with those transactions in have now been posted. So on a day-to-day basis, Sun and Transfer Desk will just run and pick up the latest file and post it automatically. So just to stress, there's no user intervention required on that. And my journal from Materials Control is posted. So just to finish off, we're going to just have a little orientation around Sun. This is Sun version 6.4, the latest release of SunSystems. It's been around for about 2 years now, so it's a mature embedded in system. I'm using the web user interface. You can see I'm accessing via a URL here. It is still available as an on-premise desktop application. With a slightly, I mean, it's a very similar interface, but we do get some additional tools when we access via the web. One of which is this home page onto which I can drop various widgets. Widgets are kind of like mini dashboards. So for example, the widgets I have on here, I've got some favorite functions, which basically just the things I use most commonly, and I can access them with just one click. So I've got things like account inquiry, journal reversal, ledger entry, allocations, and things like that. I've got a window pane here that's just got some favorite URLs. So these are just web pages that I can access directly from Sun, just open them up in a new tab in the browser, just assist me with navigation. I've got some key reports here. Now, even though I've shown you the reporting and we do concentrate mainly on the Q&A Excel-based reporting, Sun itself does have its own report writer. It's not as easily configurable and user-friendly in terms of writing reports, but it does have obviously your cornerstone out-of-the-box reports, things like trial balance, aged reporting, account listings, journal listings. So I've just got some quick links through there so I can run those reports very quickly. Obviously, auditors and people like that often want to see reports that have come directly from the system. Sun, of course, does have that level of reporting. I've got a view here into some account comparisons across entities. Sun is a multi-entity system, so you can have as many different companies or entities set up within Sun at no additional license cost. You might want to compare balances across those companies. Here I'm just viewing a couple of revenue accounts across companies. You could use this, for example, for intercompany accounts if you want to make sure they're in balance with a quick heads up view on that data. I've got a view here into some of my key suppliers and whether they're in breach of their credit limits. That big zero tells me that they are within credit limit, and I can add any suppliers to this list. And then finally, I've got a view into my recent activity. So this is a breadcrumb trail of what I've done recently. So that top one was an account inquiry, and I can go straight back to that inquiry with a single click rather than going through the menu navigation. The menu itself is over here on the left-hand side through the hamburger button. Functions are sorted into logical folders. So for instance, if I look in ledgers, I've got things like ledger transactions. And if I drill into that, I've got all the functions that come under the ledger transactions category. So things like account inquiry, journal inquiry, ledger entry, and so forth. Now, I'm licensed for every module within Sun. There are some additional modules, which means I've got quite a lot in my menu. And what I've also done is I've created additional menu items. Sun is highly configurable. For example, you can edit your menus and create bespoke menus for individual users or user roles. So you can design the system and it will align with their role. So if, let's say, for example, I was purely involved in purchasing and suppliers, I could have a menu that only has functionality relating to that particular role. I can take away everything that that particular user shouldn't be involved in and shouldn't go into. But I can also configure the screens. So for example, the results screen in an inquiry, I can amend that and basically bespoke it so that maybe only relevant fields appear on that screen and create different versions of it for different purposes. Which means in my menu, I do have a number of different inquiry screens because I've created different inquiry result screens for different purposes. And that element of bespoking and being able to tailor the system applies across the entire system. So you can end up with a very particular and specific layout of SunSystems purely for you. Now that's all done through the front end, through configuration. There's no recoding involved in that. The way you might have found in other systems, we're not changing the back end of the system. It's all through clicks and tick boxes and things like that. We're not changing the underlying architecture of Sun at all, so it doesn't affect upgrades and things like that. So just an example of this, Just to show you how kind of convenient this can be, I've actually created a different results screen for certain transactions. So I've got a couple of sessions open. You can leave sessions open within Sun, so you can flip between maybe a journal entry and an inquiry without having to come out and go back in. So I've got an account inquiry open. Now, these particular transactions came in from another system. So if you think about things like Opera and materials control, obviously those transactions are coming in from other systems. In this example, in my world, these transactions have actually come through from my CRM, which is NetSuite. And what I can do is I can configure the screen and include a drill, so I can actually go back into that source system. So these sales, which have come through from my CRM, I maybe want to have a look at the original transaction as it appeared in the other system. I can just click on the line, drill through to NetSuite. It's going to open it up in a new tab. Probably just going to take a couple of seconds to open up that screen. And I've drilled back now to that opportunity within my CRM. So that was from here, this annual purchase for Davidson Supplies, and I drilled through into that particular element. So the idea of being able to sort of highlight a transaction in Sun and drill back to the source system is something that we can do because we can amend this screen and build in these drill buttons. Obviously, it does depend on where that transaction came from and whether that system itself allows itself to be sort of to communicate and integrate with Sun. But if we can achieve that between the two systems, we can create these really nice links and sort of synergy between Sun and other systems. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I think I covered everything that's on the agenda so far, and just ask if there are any questions or points from yourself, Samuel.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, I've seen the demonstration and I love